I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for joining our webinar this morning or this evening, depending on what time zone you're in. This is the second webinar as part of our DLT and Blockchain in the Real World series. We created this series to highlight how public distributed ledgers and specifically Hedera Hashgraph is being used in production with new and existing applications to solve real industry problems. So in our first webinar, which you can find on our YouTube channel, we learned a little bit about the company Manitou and how they're using Hedera for data compliance. And in today's webinar, we're going to be learning about how Hedera Hashgraph is used at the advertising company AdsDax to help them fight fraud, which, as many folks know, it's rife in the advertising industry. And so we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about that from them today. My name is Brady. I'm part of the product marketing team here at Hedera, and I'm joined by some leadership at the company AdsDax. Would you guys like to quickly introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, my name's Ian Mullins. I'm the founder and CEO of AdsDax.
And hello, I'm Ryan Davis. I'm the Chief Product Officer.
So we're really looking forward to learning a bunch from you guys today. And since we have a number of people on the call today who are new to Hedera, I want to take just a quick minute at the beginning to quickly get everyone up to speed about the Hedera network, our network services, and our governance model. And then I'm going to hand things back over to Ian and Ryan, and they're going to share how they're using Hedera in production to log hundreds of thousands of advertising events per day on their platform. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the webinar, so be sure to drop your questions into the Q&A box on the Zoom platform. And we expect the webinar today to be around 30 minutes or so. So let's get started here. At a mile-high view over the last 5 or 6 decades, the way that we've transferred value and shared data has fundamentally shifted. So we went from documenting important transactions and data on paper, mailing it around, to eventually inputting that data into computers and improving the speed and ingestion and generation of that data, to eventually interconnecting those computers on the internet for improving access and everyone's ability to collaborate and transact in real time. And up until that point, we've really required businesses and people who act as third-party intermediaries, even for digital documents and transactions, to notarize, validate authenticity, audit, things of that nature. We've required those third-party intermediaries. But now we're entering an era of public trust. And that's where we have public blockchain and distributed ledger technologies that create programmatic trust for our data and our transactions. And so now we can validate and mathematically prove the authenticity of these transactions that we have. And we can do that quickly and efficiently with Hedera. And we don't need slow and costly third-party intermediaries to do so. So in the beginning, when Hedera first started around 2 or 3 years ago, the team identified that in order to usher in mainstream real-world adoption of public distributed ledgers and blockchains, it's going to need to have 4 things, and that's performance, security, stability, and governance. And from a performance perspective, you need to be able to transact quickly and with certainty, and the network needs to be able to support applications that are running at web scale like they are today. From a security perspective, you have to be able to prevent DDoS and what's known as a Sybil attack on public blockchains, so it has to be resistant to that. From a stability perspective, the platform needs to be stable. It needs to be able to prevent forking, for example, of the network. If there's a fork, application builders wouldn't want to have to regularly split their application state across different versions of the ledger. And so it's good to have that sort of stability for developers and companies. And then governance, with being a public blockchain, a fully decentralized governing body for code changes and decision-making and things of that nature is critical to the integrity of the network. And so related to performance and security, most of the applications running on Hedera today, including AdsDax, which we'll learn about, are leveraging the Hedera consensus service. And it's essentially a scalable and decentralized messaging service for new or existing applications. Applications are using it to log event data on the public ledger to make that data verifiable and auditable and available across various stakeholders in the application. The consensus service takes advantage of the native speeds, security, and efficiency of Hashgraph consensus, which is the underlying network algorithm. And it's what makes Hedera very unique in the public distributed ledger space. So in regards to governance and stability, because Hedera is a public network, it needs to be governed in a decentralized way. The governing model was actually based off of the Visa model, where the governing body consists of up to 39 leading global organizations who actually own the Hedera Hashgraph LLC in equal increments. They're found across 18 unique industries and 5 continents. All members are required to run a mainnet node. None of the members are compensated, and it's decentralized across time as well. So there's term limits on the amount of time that someone can be a governing member. The governing council today consists of the folks listed here. You've got Google and LG, Zane Group, Magalu, a number of folks who have just recently joined or have been with us for over a year now. And as I said, they own an equal share of the Hedera Hashgraph LLC, and they're required to operate a node on the network. They meet quarterly, and they make decisions about the direction of the network. So you can find the LLC agreement in full, as well as all of the meeting minutes from their quarterly events at hedera.com/council. And then lastly, there's just a complete overview of the Hedera ecosystem. We've got, as I mentioned, Hashgraph consensus underpinning the entire network. There's the cryptocurrency and consensus services, which are accessible developers using an SDK in Java, JavaScript, Go, and some other languages that our community has built, found in our documentation. And the code base for the network and its services are governed by the Hedera Governing Council, as you can see on the left there. And then there's many different kinds of third-party applications that are built on top of the network by people and companies similar to AdsDax and hopefully yours. And with that, I'm gonna pass things off to Ian and Ryan, and they're gonna share a little bit about AdsDax's story.
Cheers, thanks for that. So what I'm going to talk about first is really a fundamental transformation in how your actions and your data are valued by media companies and our vision for the future. And then Ryan Davies, our Chief Product Officer, will take you on a deep dive into our fraud management solutions and Hedera Hashgraph, how we're using them. So firstly, I think, there's about 4.5 billion people in the world right now who have their personal data used, abused, and profited from by advertising and publishing companies. Data monetization is a real thing. You're just not being paid, respected, or rewarded. Every moment you spend on a digital device, reading, watching, clicking, sharing, or consuming, somebody else is making money from that. They're making money from your data, your actions, and your time spent. So we want to change that. We're at a critical point in our industry right now. You've lost control of your data. If we don't act now, things are going to get much worse. And we believe we should collectively do something about that. So we see a new path. We see a world where every click, every interaction, every usage, request for your identity, a recommendation, a sharing, a contribution, or consumption of the product or service is potentially rewarded, potentially given a tiny incentive, or potentially a big one if you consume lots of the product. So we want, essentially to pay people for their life. We want, they'll get paid for life, and you'll gain a fair share of the value that you create for the very first time. You'll be able to monetize your time, data, and attention. And the loyalty between the brand and the consumer is going to be reinvented. It will revolve around a direct connection and incentive-centered design to reward engagement, consumption, and loyalty. So who pays for this? Is the big question. Well, obviously digital advertising's current ecosystem is very inefficient. Any of you guys, are from the industry, you're going to realize how inefficient it is. You're going to understand that there's lots of big fraud issues. The trust issues are rampant across the whole industry, and up to 75% of the fees go to middlemen. So firstly, we believe we can improve the operational efficiency of the advertising industry. There's a huge room for improvement. There's a lot of wastage. So disintermediation is going to be a real big thing. So the brands at the moment, they sell across multiple distribution points in different shops worldwide, but they have no real direct connection to their customers. All the data that they create on multiple devices, it's usually in a data silo, or we've got campaign information for this or campaign information for that. And it's become an increasing challenge for people to manage. So we aim to provide the tools to enable any business to pay consumers their fair share of the value they create. So we're creating a new standard to track value, digital events, and incentivize millions of consumers every day. This will provide brands and agencies with a long-term direct-to-consumer channel that's going to eliminate middlemen and provides a fully transparent platform to save them money and increase loyalty. And the bottom line is that's the most important thing. It's going to be cheaper for them to create a loyal community, and they're going to have a stronger relationship with the consumer. So AdsDax is live right now. We have some of the world's largest ad agencies and brands using the platform, including GroupM, Havas, Media, Isobar agencies, and really big consumer brands like Titan, Seat, and Swiggy. So we've proved this with big brands. They are interested. We believe we're at the start of something really big in the industry. And our platform is live right now. It's in private beta. If anybody has any ad budget they'd like to spend with us, we'd be delighted to demonstrate, what we can do and the power of our platform. So do get in contact if you've got any ad budget and want to give us a test. With AdsDax today, you can create rich media ads for mobile devices. You can reach users on brand safe inventory. You can access real-time data. And the most importantly, and the key point here today, is that you can verify the ad data on a public distributed ledger, Hedera Hashgraph. You can then use a free explorer like Dragonglass to check that data. So, in terms of trust, you can, you don't need to trust us as much as you did in the past. You can check and verify the data, and its source, and get a wealth of information and an increasing amount of information as well as we develop more services. That is going to build a new level of trust in the whole industry. So we've been banging out some really big numbers. My team's done a fantastic job of building the platform and showcasing what we can do. We've been in the ad industry for more than 10 years. We're used to really big numbers. Our platform is built to scale. We've added in Hedera Hashgraph into our tech stack, and we've been growing ever since we launched on the Hedera Hashgraph mainnet in September 2019. We've been growing pretty much, every day, ever since we started. And we've done over 1 billion tracked events, which is a big number even for the ad industry. And AdsDax has recently completed, a big campaign with Z Entertainment. We set an industry record. We achieved a massive peak of 1,372 ad transactions per second. This was the largest cryptocurrency tracking and payments event of its kind to date. I think we should have got a Guinness Book of Record or a badge or something. The team did a fantastic job on that. So we're going to continue to reach some more milestones. But as I said, one of the key problems is fraud. It's a big industry in the whole ecosystem, and very important to make sure that we've got we're trying to stay ahead of the fraudsters. So it's an ongoing challenge. So I'm going to pass you over to Ryan Davis, our Chief Product Officer, who's an expert on the subject. And he'll give you some other insights into our fraud management solutions and Hedera. Go for it, Ryan. Over to you, mate.
Hello everybody. How's it going? As Ian said, I'm going to talk briefly about first discussing what ad fraud actually is, and then looking more at how we use our technology to try and mitigate ad fraud. And mitigate is an important word, really, because as you'll come to see, although ad fraud does bleed, it's very difficult to kill it. So the first question is, what actually is ad fraud? So it's the use of any sort of duplicitous or deceptive, illegitimate methods of gaining revenue from digital advertising. Some research by Traffic Guard says that ad fraud today is worth $34 billion a year, and that's going to rise to over $87 billion by 2022. Some other research shows that ad fraud is the second largest source of income for organized crime, so second only to the drugs trade. So this isn't just a little problem that affects advertising, it's a problem that affects everyone, and it's a much bigger deal than a lot of people think. So there are three main categories of ad fraud. And you've got data fraud, which is where people present either manipulated or completely made up data. There's user or traffic fraud, which is where people attempt to present fake users or emulate real users. And then there's supply fraud, which is where companies will try to pretend that they have a premium website when actually they don't have a premium website. So for example, an advertiser might bid on an ad space on CNN.com or FoxNews.com, but what they actually get is a tiny little ad space on a dodgy download site or a porn site or something like that. So those are the three main categories of ad fraud that we are currently fighting against. But why is ad fraud a problem? So obviously, aside from the really obvious example of the billions and billions of dollars, ad fraud affects a lot of things. So one thing ad fraud affects is art and culture. So because all of this revenue is being stolen, publishers who produce niche or alternative content and content that doesn't have a massive audience but still has a massive amount of value, that's not attractive to advertisers at the moment because they're so afraid of ad fraud. It affects people because obviously we've got fraudsters who are stealing revenue, and that costs people jobs. But it also costs you your data. In order to make more money from the fraudulent activities, people are stealing your personal data and using it and abusing it in ways that you haven't given permission for them to do. And finally, ad fraud affects innovation. And because the industry is so frightened of ad fraud, and rightfully so, they turn to the bigger players, so the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons to handle all of their advertising, because they feel, perhaps rightly so, perhaps wrongly so, that because this is a big, massive company, that they must have a lot of inventory and it must be real and they must be less susceptible to fraud than other advertisers. So there's less competition and there's less room for smaller, more innovative companies to come into the market and provide better products and services. So why is it difficult to stop ad fraud? The fact that it's backed by such serious organized crime and there's such massive operations, it means that it's basically essentially a cat and mouse game between advertisers and fraudsters and ad tech providers and fraudsters, where ad tech providers are constantly trying to stay one step ahead of the game in order to shut this this valve where fraud is coming in, and then to stop this one with spinning plates, and it's an ongoing battle. And the main thing is, because it's so big, there are so many people involved in the chain, and it's very difficult to identify just who in the chain is actually benefiting from ad fraud and who's actually perpetrating the ad fraud as well. So now we'll look at how we mitigate ad fraud in our platform and how we use Hedera's technology to do that. So the first major weapon we have against ad fraud is just owning the supply chain. AdsDax is an end-to-end platform, so we do everything from helping you create the ad to serving the adverts out, and also building a publisher network of inventory and users for you to serve your adverts to. We spent years building proprietary software and are building our own hardware architecture, just so we can be sure that as few middlemen as possible are involved in the delivery of ads in our platform. And by doing so, we can get rid of a large amount of ad fraud. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are three main types of ad fraud. So data fraud. How can we stop data fraud? And this is where Hedera plays a very big role. So some ad providers will simply make up the data they're presenting, and some will manipulate it. But for AdsDax, because we're an end-to-end platform, we have all of the data on our platform, we're using Hedera's consensus service to say, right, we will send all of the data, which is anonymous. We don't send you personal user data, but we send the data from the adverts on websites directly to Hashgraph. And all of those events can be verified by Hashgraph and then stored on the ledger. And then we can send advertisers directly to the ledger. So there's now, for the first time ever, there's a store of verified campaign data, which advertisers can look at, which is immutable and tamper-proof, and we have no control over. So this level of transparency, it stops, even if we wanted to, stops us from committing any data fraud. Next is supply fraud, and this is, as I mentioned, where a publisher will present a premium website and actually give advertisers a not so premium website, and it's usually pornographic or some sort of dodgy piracy site. And we've got a two-pronged approach in the fight against supply fraud. So the first thing we do is we do a myriad of manual checks with all of the publishers who come on board. We make sure we do all of the due diligence and KYC, and we actually talk to the publishers who sign up with our network. And once they've gone through that vetting process, and we've manually checked that they have all of the correct code on their website and it's working correctly, then we can start delivering adverts to the publisher. And this cuts out, again, a massive part of supply fraud. The second thing we do then is we then verify all of the events from publishers and all of those interactions on Hedera Hashgraph. So then members of our QA team can go back, look at all of the past data for a publisher, analyze it, to see if there's any unusual patterns or anything we should be concerned about, and make any actions on that. And again, the fact that we have this data that is immutable and transparent and completely auditable, all stored on Hashgraph, means that we can be doubly confident that data is correct. So traffic fraud is a big deal. It's probably where most of ad fraud takes place. So there are things that are general tactics like click farms, where dozens and dozens of real people will sit at a table with dozens of phones in front of them, and they will open web pages and click on adverts and then refresh and keep doing it. So they appear to be real people, but they're actually not. And so that's classed as general sort of traffic fraud, and that's fairly easy to detect. So there are industry lists of known bad IPs and data centers, and known bots and crawlers which commit general traffic fraud. So by cutting general fraud out, we can cut out 80% in certain cases of the traffic fraud. Where it becomes more difficult is the sophisticated fraudulent traffic, which are large networks of botnets and other sort of more advanced ways of pretending that a real person is looking at a phone. So there's techniques such as incentivized browsing, where it's a very real user, but unbeknownst to the advertiser, the user's being incentivized to actually click on the advert and go through to the landing page. So they appear real because they are genuine, but then they're not real. They've just been incentivized to do that, and the user themselves doesn't know that actually what they're doing is helping this publisher or this ad tech provider commit fraud. There's also falsified performance, where the clicks and impressions and views are just faked. So this is where our proprietary software comes in. We have a software called Argus Ad Shield, which sits inside of our platform, and every single ad event that comes in, the Argus Ad Shield will look at that event, and it will gauge whether or not it's fraudulent. It looks for different tactics that fraudsters use and aims to filter out everything from cookie stuffing and ad stacking and domain spoofing, just to find the real user. And then when we find the real user, those are the events that we can count. So Argus Ad Shield, it works in sort of two ways. There's the analogy I always use is there's a pre-game and a sort of post-game analysis of everything that's about to happen with an advert. So when a real user hits a website in our network, our ADK, which is our ads development kit, which is a line of code that sits on a publisher's website, and it contains all of the video players and technology needed to display an advert. When a user hits the page, that's loaded either from our cache or from our CDN, and we say, okay, we've got a user here. Are they real? Can we give them an advert? So the first thing we do is we do a bunch of passive server-side checks, where we do the basic stuff. Is this a known data center that commits click fraud? Is this a click farm or one of our known botnets or crawlers? And if they fail that check, then we get rid of them. We don't serve an advert. Then there's an active check, which is on the phone itself, which I can't go into too many specifics because then it would invalidate our tech, but there are techniques and methods on there to check whether we believe this is a real phone, how many times we've seen this device before, and the sort of performance we've seen from this device in the past or from that location in the past, and things like that. And if any of those checks have failed, then we won't serve an advert out. The other thing we check at that time is the actual web page that the advert is going to be displayed on brand safe? Is it talking about subjects that advertisers wouldn't want to place adverts next to, or is there a lot of profanity or pornographic content? So again, if it fails all of those checks, then we won't display an ad. If it's passed both the passive check and the active check, then we'll serve an advert. We say, okay, we're pretty confident that this should be a real user in theory. So after they've been verified, the AGK will go and it'll get an advert, and the advert will display, and all of the tracking events will be dispatched to Hedera, and we will hopefully have a valid impression. But if that's not the case, we will then go back and look at, in real time with the Argus Ad Shield, we'll go back and look at actually what happened during the course of that advert going out. How quickly did the user click the click-through button? Did they watch the video before clicking the button, or did the video even start playing? Did the ad was the ad displayed properly on the device? And if we look at those checks and we believe that actually there's something wrong with this impression, something happened, then we can log that as part of a score, which we will store on the Hedera ledger. And once we go at the end of the campaign, we can go through and look at any impressions that we believe were fraudulent, and we can remove them, not from the ledger, we can remove them from the campaign, and we can refund the advertiser for what we thought were bad impressions, or we can deliver more good impressions. So sort of, it's a two-step approach, as I said, pre-game and post-game, where we know that unfortunately somebody is going to slip through at some stage, but hopefully with the fact that we have the immutable ledger and the transparency in the post-game and all of the pre-game checks, that we can get rid of as much ad fraud as possible. So one thing we use as part of the Argus Ad Shield is Hedera's consensus service. So this is one method we have of identifying ad fraud. Because we have these verified timestamps, we can work out exactly when an event happened, and from that, in what order they happened. So on the left, you can see a real user, and a real user will go to a website, and they'll be on their phone or their laptop. An advert will be displayed, and then a video will play. They'll be able to click on the video, or they can close the advert. But for bots, they're not all that sophisticated like a real user. So when a bot sees an advert, or some bots see an advert, they will try to trigger all of the events they can see on the page. So they'll try and click, and they'll try and close the advert and try and trigger a video view. But because we have the Hedera consensus service to put everything in order, we can work out if a user clicked before the advert was even on the page, or if a user watched a 30-second video before they started watching the video. And that's another method we have then of then going back and auditing everything that happened, using the data on the ledger and working out how much fraud was in there. So what is the future of ad fraud? Well, as I mentioned, there's no silver bullet to remove all ad fraud. So the approach we are building is a fraud resilient ecosystem to remove as much fraud as we possibly can from the entire process. And then at the end of the ad serving process, look at everything that come in, and then clean up as much of that data as possible to remove as much suspected fraud as possible. And hopefully, well, it does free up a lot of advertising budget. Our aim is to have as much money from the advertisers going as possible to the users, and to meeting their goals and to building ROI. And the unfortunate reality is some form of fraud might always exist. But this, what I'm talking about now, this is our current platform. But we have quite a bold and dynamic vision where actually we will reward consumers for their actions. So consumers will be able to get themselves verified. They'll be able to create an account with us, and they'll be able to earn money from the adverts they see. And if they want to share data with advertisers, they can earn more money. And if they don't want to share data with advertisers, they don't have to, because that's also fine. And we firmly believe that actually by creating a relationship between the advertiser and the consumers and removing as much of the middlemen as possible, we can create a much better ecosystem for advertising and for people who are browsing websites on their phone, so they don't have to see as many ads. So as I mentioned, we will be leveraging cryptocurrency in the future version of our platform, not only to award pseudo-anonymous and KYC verified users. So I say pseudo-anonymous because you can tell advertisers that you like a certain product without them actually knowing it's you, because certainly in my opinion, if a big soda drinks brand wants to know that you like their drink and wants to send you discounts on their drink, they don't need to know your name for that, and they don't need to know your address or things like that. They just need to know that you're really into this soda drink and you really like it if you had a discount and you'd buy more. And so by having that relationship with an advertiser where your privacy is protected and only and elements of it are only shared with advertisers when you opt in to share with it, we can reward you with cryptocurrency and create a much better ecosystem. I think that's pretty much everything we've got on ad fraud at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan and Ian, for sharing that. That was really great. Very interesting. So it looks like we have a few questions that have come through in the Q&A box. If anybody has any other questions they have, definitely drop them in there and we'll try to answer them right now. So first question from someone, they say, as an individual, I love the concept that digital advertising shouldn't be able to make money off of my behaviors without compensation. How does the AdsDax solution with digital ad fraud and supply fraud get us closer to the time when users are empowered, protected, and compensated to participate in digital advertising? Is there a first step to simply identify the real users?
Go for it, Ryan.
Yeah, well, that is what blockchain technology and what Hedera have unlocked for us, is a route to for us to give digital assets and digital rewards to consumers, because people now have crypto wallets. We can now give them crypto wallets. In traditional banking, it's very difficult to give somebody money, and you have to go through lots of checks and lots of verification that isn't actually a part of the crypto community. So by having a bunch of KYC'd users with wallets, we can say, right, well, the money that was going to go to this publisher or this middleman, no, let's give that to consumers. And that's where we are today. It's something that certainly myself and Ian and AdsDax, we've been looking at for a long time. It's just the technology wasn't there for us to do it. And we didn't really have ways of giving you a tangible asset other than just, oh, here's 10% off or 20% off. We wanted to give something more. We wanted you to be, as Ian said, rewarded for life.
Get paid for life, yeah, is a value proposition. So, I mean, we think that step one for us is we've done it. We've built this platform. We're tracking literally millions of events. And the bit that we're not doing at the moment, to be honest, is that next step of paying the consumer for their participation. So we've had to spend time building the infrastructure, and we've still got an awful lot to do. We are very close, though, we believe, to actually finalizing all of the jurisdiction and the legalities of actually distributing rewards, firstly through our network of partners to based on their attention and their time spent and their clicking and engagement with adverts. So we're going to start with the value derived that we know we can share from advertising, and then we're hoping to build on more propositions around the full package around the data. So we're looking to either build or partner with the right people that can offer us additional features and services in there. But we're obviously going to have the main incentive rail to make sure that any business that wants to incentivize their consumers and have a direct relationship has got the tools to do so. So we think we've started. We're well underway, but in terms of paying the consumer, we're watch this space. We'll be announcing something this year, and you will be able to go and enjoy it.
Excellent. Can you guys clarify what's in beta? And then I think you mentioned some things in beta earlier, and then there are a number of things that are in production on the Hedera mainnet.
Yeah, sure. Go for it, Ryan. You're the man on that.
Yeah, so a lot of our Argus Ad Shield is quite experimental, and it's still classed as being in beta at the moment. So we're still fine-tuning the tools we use to sort of detect fraud and working out, okay, if we try this technique, would it pick up more fraud or less fraud? So that is, yeah, we class that as being in beta. We class our self-serve advertising dashboard as being in beta as well, purely for that reason. But they are both fully functional, fully operational, delivering live campaigns as we speak.
Awesome. Did you try any other blockchains before you started using Hedera?
We did. We did a lot of R&D into everything at the time. Ryan will give you more details, but we tried Stellar and had limited success with them. A lot of our early tests with them, but we did find some big limitations, and it didn't really support our cost model going forward. There's always alternatives and ways you go down to have your own private chain and private network, and but fundamentally the big difference came to us was in the cost. When we actually ran the numbers and saw the difference between other chains, and we must have our costs under control. We can't have anything like the Ethereum network where suddenly we're paying 20 times more or 5 times more. We want it to be static. We want to know what we're going to pay, for the whole duration of a campaign, not what the cost is going to be for today. So it was really important to us, and that was one of the key reasons why we selected Hashgraph.
Yeah, as Ian said, I mean, it's costs for running on blockchain or a distributed ledger is a massive factor, especially in advertising where you're doing millions of events a day and billions of events and things like that. So it's not just having a fixed cost structure where okay, this is going to cost 2% of my margin or 5% of my margin. It's also that it can't cost too much, so we can't go to advertisers and say, that advertising you're buying from that other person, well, we can sell you better advertising, but it's going to cost you 20 times more. It's just simply not workable. And I think there's a lot of great blockchain tech out there and great DLT that's just unusable in an enterprise scale because of the cost. It's cost prohibitive. But like obviously with Hedera, that's not the case, and it's very cheap for us to log all of these events to the ledger, and then we can get all the benefits from that, and so can the advertisers.
Excellent. Yeah, the consistent pricing and having the pricing be in US dollars seems to be a big differentiator for a lot of application developers and companies today. How large is your advertising network, and how many people are you guys reaching globally?
Well, every month we reach between 200 million to 250 million impressions on our network. We've been affected, like everybody, by the COVID scenario at the moment, particularly in our key markets in India and Southeast Asia. Some of our publishers have had a really bad time. Of ad budgets just been, cut, slashed, or pushed down the road. So yeah, I think it's for us. We can grow very quickly to scale up. We've got tens of millions of unique users hitting our platform every month. So we're looking to take, and you can see it in our numbers where we've done over 1 billion tracked events. So we're hopefully looking to ramp up from here, but we've got a large audience now. And like I said, if anybody's got some ad budgets and they're looking to reach audiences, particularly in Asia, but we've got traffic all around the world, in various numbers depending on the country and the territory. And our publisher acquisition team does a great job of signing up new publishers. So sometimes we have advertisers who want a specific audience, and then it takes us a little bit of time, but we can go and speak to those publishers and say, hey, we've got a deal for you guys. So we are a small, agile, nimble company at the moment, but we're looking to take on the world and really change the industry. And we've seen an opportunity that the big players can't literally do at the moment. They can't do it properly. They're covered by regulators. Let's be honest, a lot of the big players also want to use these incentive opportunities, and schemes in which to do it. Even Google and Facebook, they've even declared it. But they can't. To a certain degree, they can't be as agile as us. We can move. We can hopefully create the new standard, and our vision is to decentralize as much as possible, as much as we can. Very very similar to Hedera, with a path to complete decentralization. And yeah, we're looking to scale as fast as we can, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's significant, but not gigantic. It could always be bigger. But I think one of the things as well is we're not the biggest player in advertising by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, we're going up against your Googles, your Facebooks, and so on. But it's the quality of publishers we have as well. We've got very respected news brands and media and entertainment agencies, particularly in Asia, who we work with. I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap my brain now, remember on the contracts who I'm allowed to say and who I'm not.
Yeah, Z Media, Network 18, some of the biggest Bollywood and news players in Asia are part of our publisher network, and they have been for many years. We've built our relationships over, we've been operating in India, for example, with an office there for almost 10 years now. So we have very, very good long-term relationships with publishers. And ultimately, one of our missions is to help publishers to make more money. You know, if we reduce and improve the efficiency, there's going to be more to share around between the real people who created the value. So the consumers, we want to position as number one. The publishers are the key drivers of that. The advertisers are trying to create the connection. So we feel this is a game changer for the whole industry. We're going to blaze a trail, and we've already proved that, you know, Hedera is ready for the mainstream big enterprise numbers. We've proved it. We've done it. You know, 1,372 transactions per second a few weeks ago. Big brands are getting interested. Many of them are just still experimenting, but we see this as, you know, about to sort of literally take off early next year. If it wasn't for COVID, I think it'd be a very different scenario right now. I think we'd be looking at, you know, tremendous growth across the whole sector, not just DeFi. So yeah, it's changing. The world's changing.
And so on the topic of scale, a question came through asking about where we anticipate traffic on Hedera to be in about a year from now.
Oh, I have to get my crystal ball out. How big, much bigger. Yeah, I mean, 10x is not impossible. 100x is what I'd like. You know, but you know, it's very difficult to predict. A lot of the advertising markets are starting to return. You know, we've got Q4 coming up. There's there's certain periods depending on the territories where you've got events and festivals and things like that. But you know, take key markets like us in India. You know, literally, you know, the lockdown has affected everybody, and budgets are on hold. So, you know, and we're trying our best to eke out from the whole industry and the pipeline whatever we can do and whatever we can share during this time. And I think next year it's going to be completely different. I mean, you know, the digitization of everything, the tokenization of everything, and releasing the value for brands, you know, and sharing that with the consumer is going to be a really big thing. You know, the conversations we have at the moment with brands. You know, normally in advertising, nobody, you know, you try to cold call someone, it's sort of like, no, not interested, not interested. You talk about, you know, blockchain technology, how your industry can be made more efficient, and they're like, well, tell us more. I'm listening. We hear something about, you know, DLT and how it's going to change the world. You know, how is it? So there's a lot of interest, and, you know, moving from interest to, you know, conversion is what next year's all about. So we're looking to scale up and, you know, like I said, anybody got any advertising budget or any publishers looking to partner and earn more, give us a call.
Excellent. And so this person's asking if you can define what an ad event is, any ad event that happens on your platform.
Yeah, sure. It can be a number of different things. So it can be anything that's involved as part of either displaying or the goal of the advertiser. So, for example, when an advert appears on a page, that's an impression, so that we would count that as an ad event. The user can click it, that's another event. There's also video views, and we track things like they've watched 10% of the video or 50% of the video. The thing we track on Hedera at the moment is the payable ad event, which is different for every single campaign. So some advertisers are looking for clicks, some are looking for video views, some are just looking for impressions, and some are looking for a little bit more than that. So it changes on a sort of campaign by campaign basis, but those are really the events we're looking at.
Yeah, I think we had listed about 50, wasn't it, Ryan, on the sheet that we could do today? I think it was different.
Yeah.
Different so it was a pretty big number that we're looking, because you know, at the end of the day, an event, you know, could be anything defined by the brand. You know, any digital event you'd like to incentivize. So you know, going forward, we could even, you know, link my consumption of this beer, for example, and you could get a tiny micro incentive. And there we've taken the online world and the offline world and created an incentive, and it goes directly to the consumer. And that may be a tiny nano incentive, or it might be, I've just finished my my 6-pack of beer and I get a nice big incentive. So, you know, we're looking at long term, it's about loyalty and how we can generate a new type of connection for the advertiser directly to the consumer and make the consumer, you know, the most respected and valued part of this chain, rather than at the moment where they're completely disrespected, not given any information. You know, the other end, you're being used, abused, your data's being shared. You know, and most of the time, the worst thing, you don't even own your data. Somebody else does. You know, whatever platform you're on to use it to create it legally, they own it. So we want to change that. So if they actually have to ask you permission first, then, you know, that's going to change. So, and in many respects, these big players can't introduce their own new standards very easily, I should say. We're in the ad world, but very easily. So, you know, this is where we feel as a, a innovative player, we can come along with a new standard, be first in the market, and, you know, hopefully be accepted by a large portion of the industry. So, yeah, stay tuned. We'll tell you more exciting news soon.
Excellent. We're just going to take a couple more questions here and then close things out. This person's asking if this is deployed as an agent at the OS level or HTML in the server, or simply an exclusive source. And then who pays you and how, and will you have a token?
Yeah, but board specific. I think a token would be a good idea, is my best answer to that. So all of our tech is deployed as part of the ADK. So that sits directly on a publisher's web page in the head of their website in HTML. We have elements of the Argus Ad Shield which sit server side. So things like the checks for known bot networks and things like that sit server side. The rest of it happens on the actual device. And then who pays us is advertisers. So advertisers will pay us to advertise their products and services, to display adverts on our publisher network, and to reach you as the consumer.
And yes, tokens. I do agree with Ryan. I'm passionately interested in tokenization of everything, and our sector that we're focusing on is the tokenization opportunities for brands and agencies. But there are a number of big, you know, economic dilemmas and creating a long-term store of value, you know, and having conversations around how we can economically do that. We've got some good ideas around utility tokens, you know, but the future we really want to be agnostic. If the brand wants to pay for a campaign or offer an incentive in their own token or an HBAR, you know, or in a you know, an asset they create, a non-fungible token. You know, Hedera support all of these technologies now. It's all come together at the right time. You've got a you know, big intersection of different things happening in order to create a new incentive model. You know, this is an exciting bit for us. So yeah, we're all token fans.
Excellent. And then one last question for you guys. This one's around AML and KYC being important. How will you scale these efforts to keep up with demands by publishers?
I think it's a case of, obviously it's going to be very difficult to scale up KYC. There are trust issues, which I completely get and completely understand. So it's not a case that all of our users will have to pass KYC. It's just that those that do will be able to enjoy the rewards. So we'll still have all of the inventory we've currently got, but on top of that, the people who are registered and signed up and they've done KYC, they've got a wallet, they can actually enjoy the rewards from the advertising, with the hope that the more people sign up and the more they get comfortable with the technology, then more people will sign up and eventually everyone will be KYC.
Yeah, it's pretty complex with the different jurisdictions all around the world at the moment. There's, you know, there's pretty good clarity in a number of individual countries on how we structure that and how we can, you know, work within the frameworks. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about making, you know, micro and nano payments to consumers, and you know, potentially lots of them. So we'll fall under more of the lenient regulations, and hopefully there'll be limits placed on how much we can do. I don't want to reveal too much, to be honest, at the moment, because we're actually, you know, going through the launch plan and how we're doing it. But we've got plans to do it where KYC essentially isn't required all the time, but it depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on how everything is structured, including the token and the distribution. So it's not an easy answer at this point, but in about 5 months, we will reveal exactly how we've done it and showcase that to you guys for sure.
Very exciting, some big things coming. And I'm sure, you know, as you guys progress, we're going to be talking more with you about everything that's coming down the line. And as you move into new different spaces, share that with the rest of the community. So I just wanted to say thank you again so much for sharing your story and talking about fraud mitigation at AdsDax with Hedera. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be posting a recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel, likely doing a blog posting. And then we've got a few more things coming down the line that around fraud mitigation that we'll be sharing with everyone else. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.